When Princess Diana died in 1997, the world mourned a princess. But behind the flowers, the tributes, and the global grief, something else was waiting quietly inside a sealed legal document. Her will. Most people assumed they already knew what it said. After all, Diana was the mother of two princes. Of course everything would go to her sons. But when the document was finally opened, it revealed something far more complicated. Diana had made decisions about her fortune years earlier, decisions that would trigger legal changes, family disagreements, and a financial structure that would shape the lives of Prince William and Prince Harry for decades. It wasn't just about money. It was about control. It was about independence from the royal system she had fought against for years. And most of all, it was about one final act of protection for the two people she loved most. Because the truth is, Princess Diana didn't just leave behind an inheritance. She left behind leverage. And the ripple effects of that decision are still shaping the royal family today. Before she became the most famous woman in the world, Princess Diana was simply Diana Spencer. She was born on July 1, 1961, into the powerful Spencer family, a lineage deeply connected to the British aristocracy. From the outside it looked like the perfect upbringing. Grand estates, historic titles, close ties to the royal family. But inside the Spencer household, life was far from peaceful. Diana's parents had hoped desperately for a son to carry on the family name. When she was born instead, the disappointment hung quietly in the room. Her childhood soon became even more unstable. When Diana was just 7 years old, her parents' marriage collapsed in a bitter divorce. Custody battles followed, and Diana eventually remained with her father. The emotional scars stayed with her for years. Later in life, Diana would describe her childhood as very unhappy and very unstable. Yet even during those difficult years, one thing became clear about Diana. She possessed a deep empathy for others. Teachers noticed it. Friends remembered it. While she struggled academically, she constantly showed kindness toward people who were hurting or struggling. That instinct would eventually become the defining trait of her life. But first, she would step into a world that would test her more than anyone could imagine. In 1977, Diana first crossed paths with the man who would change her life forever. Prince Charles. At the time, Charles was actually dating Diana's older sister. Diana herself was only 16. There was no romance then, no hint that history was about to shift. But a few years later, everything changed. By 1980, Charles began seeing Diana differently. She was young, graceful, and, perhaps most importantly, she fit the image the royal family wanted for the future Princess of Wales. In February 1981, the world received the news. Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer were engaged. Almost overnight, Diana became the center of global fascination. Their wedding later that year was watched by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. To the public it looked like a fairy tale. But behind palace walls, cracks appeared almost immediately. When reporters asked the couple if they were in love, Diana quickly answered yes. Charles responded with a strange phrase that would later haunt their marriage. Whatever in love means. The truth was already complicated. Because long before Diana entered the picture, another woman had been in Charles's life. Camilla. And that relationship had never truly ended. The story of Charles, Diana, and Camilla would become one of the most infamous royal dramas in modern history. Charles had first met Camilla years earlier at a polo match. Their connection was immediate. She made him laugh. She treated him like an ordinary man rather than a future king. But royal expectations stood in the way of marriage. Camilla eventually married another man. Yet even after that wedding, her relationship with Charles quietly continued. When Diana married Charles in 1981, she was stepping into a relationship that already carried emotional baggage. At first, she tried to make it work. The couple had 2 sons, Prince William in 1982 and Prince Harry in 1984. For a brief period, it seemed like the royal fairy tale might actually succeed. But the tension never truly disappeared. Eventually, Diana realized the truth. Camilla was still part of Charles's life. Years later, Diana would describe the situation with a line that stunned the world. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. The marriage slowly collapsed under public scrutiny, media scandals, and emotional strain. By 1992, the couple had officially separated. In 1996, their divorce was finalized. Diana was no longer a working member of the royal family. And that change would play a crucial role in what happened next. Even before her divorce, Diana had already begun reshaping what it meant to be a royal. She refused to follow many of the traditions that had defined the monarchy for generations. She worked before marriage, becoming the first royal bride in modern history to have a regular job. She chose her own engagement ring directly from a jewelry catalog instead of having a custom piece made. At her wedding, she removed the word obey from her vows. And as a mother, she broke even more royal rules. Instead of raising her sons behind palace walls, she exposed them to normal life. She took them to theme parks. She rode public transportation. She even took young Prince William with her on international royal tours. Diana wanted her children to understand the real world. But her biggest act of rebellion came in 1995. That year, she sat down for a televised interview that shocked the monarchy. During the interview, she openly discussed her marriage, her struggles with bulimia, and the emotional pain she had endured inside the royal system. No royal had ever spoken that honestly before. From that moment forward, Diana wasn't just a princess. She was something far more powerful. She was a global icon. And she was determined to protect her children from the pressures she had faced. While the public watched her life unfold in headlines, Diana was quietly making decisions about her future. In 1993, during her separation from Charles, she created her will. At the time, her estate already included millions of pounds in inheritance and assets. But after her divorce in 1996, her wealth grew dramatically. Charles agreed to a settlement worth roughly £16 million. Combined with investments, jewelry, and other assets, Diana's estate eventually reached more than £21 million. But the most important part wasn't the amount of money. It was how she structured it. Diana made one thing very clear. Her sons would be the primary beneficiaries. Prince William and Prince Harry would inherit the majority of her fortune. But she also understood something about the royal system. Money inside the monarchy often came with control. Diana wanted her sons to have something different. Freedom. When Diana died in the tragic Paris crash in 1997, her will suddenly became one of the most discussed legal documents in the world. At first glance it seemed simple. Her estate would pass to William and Harry. But the details were far more complicated. Taxes alone removed nearly half the estate before the princes ever received it. Instead of gaining immediate access to the money, the inheritance was placed into a trust. The rules of that trust would later become controversial. Originally, Diana intended for her sons to receive their inheritance at age 25. But the executors of her estate, members of her own family, changed the arrangement. Full access was delayed until the princes turned 30. Until then they could only receive interest payments. By the time the trust finally released the money, each son inherited roughly £10 million. But Diana had also left behind something even more personal. Her jewelry. The day after signing her will, Diana wrote a private letter of wishes. In that letter, she explained how she hoped her personal belongings would be distributed. 75% of her jewelry and personal items were meant to be divided between William and Harry. Diana also hoped that one day their wives would wear those pieces. That wish eventually came true. When Prince William proposed to Catherine, he used Diana's famous sapphire engagement ring. Prince Harry later designed Meghan Markle's engagement ring using diamonds from Diana's personal collection. Even decades later, Diana's presence still appears in royal life through those symbols. But the inheritance had another impact that no one could have predicted. Especially for Harry. In 2021, during a televised interview, Prince Harry revealed something surprising. After stepping away from royal duties, he and Meghan needed financial support to build a new life. The royal family had cut off official funding. But Harry still had something his mother left behind. Her inheritance. He explained that the money from Diana helped him move to the United States and create independence from the royal institution. In a way, Diana had achieved something remarkable. Even decades after her death, she was still protecting her son. Still giving him options. Still creating an exit from the system that had once trapped her. Many people think of Princess Diana as the people's princess. The compassionate royal who hugged AIDS patients, walked through minefields, and showed emotion in a family known for restraint. But her legacy goes far beyond public moments. Through her will, she ensured that her sons would always have something the royal system rarely allows. Prince William followed the path of the future king. Prince Harry chose a different life entirely. But both paths were made possible by the same woman. The woman who refused to disappear inside tradition. Princess Diana. In the end, she didn't just leave behind money. She left behind independence. And that may have been her most powerful act of rebellion of all.